My first night shift at the hospital came with one rule nobody would explain. My first night as a newly hired nurse at one of the oldest hospitals in the state started with a warning that made no sense before handing me my ID badge. The head nurse looked me straight in the eyes and said, "If room 407 ever rings the call button after 2 in the morning, do not go alone." I laughed because I assumed it was an old joke meant for new employees. But none of the other nurses smiled at exactly 2:14 a.m. The quiet hallway echoed with the sound of a call bell. Room 407 was requesting assistance. Every monitor at the nurse's station lit up with the same number. I grabbed a chart and started walking toward the room until an older nurse stopped me and insisted on coming with me when we opened the door. The room was completely empty. The bed had been stripped, the lights were off, and according to the chart, the room had been closed for renovation for almost 6 months. The call button suddenly stopped on its own and we quietly walked back to the station without saying a word. The next evening, it happened again at exactly the same time. This time I asked the older nurse what everyone was hiding. She took a deep breath and told me that years earlier, room 407 had belonged to an elderly man who spent his final weeks alone because he had no family. Every night he would press the call button just to have someone sit with him for a few minutes. After he passed away, the call system began activating by itself several times each month. Engineers replaced the wiring, the buttons, and even the control panel, but nothing ever stopped the calls. The hospital eventually closed the room, yet the bell continued to ring at exactly 2:14 a.m. During my third night shift, the call button sounded once more, but instead of fear, I felt sympathy. I quietly stepped into the empty room and simply said, "You're not alone anymore." The room stayed completely silent for a few seconds before the old bedside radio that hadn't worked in years suddenly turned on by itself, playing a soft jazz song from the 1950s. According to the patient's file, it had been his favorite song. After less than a minute, the radio switched off and the call button never rang again. Months later, while helping clear out old hospital records, I found a thank you letter written by that same patient shortly before his death. It ended with one sentence: "People don't always remember the medicine you gave them. They remember that you stayed when everyone else was too busy." I still think about that letter every time I work a night shift, because hospitals are filled with stories that never appear in medical records. And sometimes the greatest act of healing isn't curing someone, it's making sure they never have to face their darkest night completely alone.